You didn't tell me getting a diagnosis would make me start sucking at life. Is that because you're really stressed, or is it skill regression? I don't know what that is. Like, for work, I edit all the time, and I had been really fast with my editing, but now it's like I'm back in college. Or like with my voice lessons, I suddenly can't read music, or... Your brain is pruning, and that can happen. And it can be caused by learning something new about yourself, like that you mask, or that you have, say, ADHD or autism. Or it can happen when you have a trauma and you have a major breakthrough in healing. Pruning? Okay, so this area of neuroscience dealing with neuroplasticity is still relatively new, and it hasn't been officially studied with how it pertains to people with various neurovariances. Because the research money goes to funding curing neurodiversity instead of helping us? Pretty much. So the theory goes that certain skills are mapped in the brain to certain neural networks, that the nerves within a neural network, as well as the neural networks themselves, are grouped and associated with other nerves and neural networks. Is this related to schema theory? Yeah, the theory that our brain learns by association. So for example, if a child knows what a horse is, the first time they see a cow, they may say, "Ooh, horse!" So when their parents tell them that that's a cow, they learn and horses and cows are different, but also similar. Right, but if they were to see a boat, they probably wouldn't compare the boat to the horse. They're not similar enough. Makes sense. So does that mean if the neural network that understands horse is pruned, the understanding of what a cow is also affected? Damn. So my understanding of who I am and how I interact with the world was just fundamentally altered. And it's likely that the skills that you're losing are tied to certain masking behaviors that are now functionally altered in the brain with your new self-awareness. Oh, geez. So does that mean I have to relearn, like, reading music and editing from scratch? Maybe, but not necessarily. See, neural networks don't have a central trunk, so when you cut the trunk of a tree down, the whole thing falls. But that's not how neural networks work, thankfully. So my personal theory is that when you have a major perspective shift, and that can really be on anything, the neural network's structure changes. So let's say the primary neural path with which you accessed your editing skills was creativity, survival about your career, and providing for your family. Oh, fuck. And you have a major breakthrough in therapy that heals a core trauma that was driving that motivation for the behavior. That doesn't mean you've severed all access to that skill, but it does mean you would probably have a harder time accessing the skill because the facilitated pathway that you've always used to get there has been broken. Facilitated what? It's a well-used nerve pathway. Think of a facilitated pathway as a fiber optic, and a new pathway is like dial-up. The facilitated pathway may have been an unhealthy belief or a cognitive distortion. So when that is healed, making that distortion severed, the pathway gets pruned. It can be frustrating because you have to start by installing a new dial-up connection first to access that skill. And that dial-up connection is slow. No wonder it's frustrating. So the skill is still theoretically there, but back to the cow example. If the schema connection of horse is now gone, you can still have other schema concepts to inform what a cow is like. So like farm, livestock, grazing, bull, milk, steak, those kinds of things. So the more schemas that are attached to something, the more likely it is to stay intact? Or maybe the easier it is to develop a new fiber optic connection. But if my editing has always been driven by that now healed trauma, it may take a while to get your internet service provider to perform upgrades. Okay, I think the analogy's starting to fall apart. Yep, basically the more you do it, the more it will develop. Ugh, it's exhausting. But this kind of gives me hope. And while you're going through this process of transformation, your stress level is going to be naturally higher. So it's natural to generally have decreased performance. So keep in mind that you are literally rewiring your own brain. It takes a lot of energy. It's exhausting. You are going to have nights where it's hard to sleep and days with brain fog. So be easy on yourself. Thanks.